respected students. This is Muhammad Asim Shoaib, Axial Irrigation Department, going to deliver lecture on flood hazard disaster management. Bundles of thanks to Dr. Rizwan Riaz for giving me this opportunity. Guys, we will be covering our lecture in 5 different parts. So first part is about infrastructure, jurisdictions, and hierarchy of Punjab Irrigation Department's field formations. Guys, I'm very happy to know that in your coursework you have already covered a lot of theoretical part about floods. I would like to repeat the headings because I consider all of that part as prerequisite for the coming slides of my lecture. So you guys already have covered theory of floods, like their trigger mechanisms. You have studied about flood plains. You have studied about types of floods, like flash floods, fluvial or riverine floods, pluvial floods, or coastal or surge floods. Similarly, you guys have already covered flood characteristics, which includes depth of water, duration, velocity, rate of rise, frequency of occurrence, and seasonality. And also you have covered flood limits and causes of floods in Pakistan. So Dr. Rizwan has already taught you about main uh, theoretical part of the floods. So I will try to skip those details because you guys have already covered those. So starting from this slide, uh, first of all, we should have the idea about Indus, its tributaries and major hydraulic structures on them. You can see this is a map of Pakistan, and this overall is the view of Indus Basin actually. And if we start explaining river by river, so first of all, let's discuss about the river Indus. You can see this is a river Indus starting from Tibet, China, and moving across the country and falling into the Arabian Sea. Actually, this is the main river, and all other 5 rivers which constitute the Punjab province. All 5 other rivers are its tributaries. Uh, you guys can see, let's finish first of all Indus River. On Indus River, we have first of all Tarbela Dam, and then downstream of Tarbela Dam, we have Jinnah Barrage. We also call it as Kalabagh Barrage. And downstream Jinnah Barrage, we have Chashma Barrage. This Chashma Barrage is a reservoir also. And downstream of Chashma Barrage on Indus River, we have Taunsa Barrage. And downstream of Taunsa Barrage, near Kot Mithan, all the 5 rivers, after forming a Panjnad, they enter into the river Indus. And this place is Kot Mithan. And after that, Sindh province starts, and in Sindh we have 3 major hydraulic structures on river Indus. One is Guddu Barrage, other one is Sakhar Barrage, and the most downstream structure is Kotri Barrage. Now let's move towards other tributaries of river Indus. Starting from the northern part, we have Jhelum River. On Jhelum River, first structure we have Mangla Dam, and then moving forward we have Rasool Barrage on this, and then this is the line of river Jhelum, and here uh, river Jhelum, upstream of the Trimu Barrage, it falls in the Chenab River, right? So that is why actually this thing is called Trimu, because actually here Jhelum falls into the Chenab. And if we move towards Chenab River, the first structure in Pakistan we have on Chenab River is Marala Barrage, and then downstream of Marala we have Khanki Barrage, and downstream of Khanki Barrage we have Kadrabad Barrage, and downstream of Kadra Barrage we have Trimu Barrage. Of course, as I have already told you, that upstream of Trimu Barrage, River Jhelum falls into it. And then moving forward, more downstream, we have Panjnath Barrage on Chenab River, and before Panjnath Barrage, River Ravi enters into Chenab River, and immediately upstream of the uh, Panjnath Barrage, Satluj River also enters into it. So now moving towards Ravi River, first structure on Ravi, first hydraulic structure on Ravi, we have Ravi Siphon. After that, Ravi Siphon, we have Balloki Barrage. And then downstream of Balloki Barrage, we have Sidnai Barrage. And then after Sidnai, River Ravi falls into the Chenab River. And then moving forward towards Satluj River, in Pakistan, first structure we have on Satluj River, we have Suleiman Ki Barrage on it. And then downstream of Suleiman Ki Barrage, we have Islam Barrage. And then downstream of Islam Barrage, it has no other structure, rather it falls into Chenab River immediately upstream of the Panjnath Barrage. Right, regarding Satluj River, actually right at the brink of the line of control, if you guys have visited Ganda Singh border, here we have Ferozpur Headworks, which falls in the jurisdiction of Indian Punjab, but actually it is very near to the line of control. If we stand at the LOC, we can even see the downstream part of the Ferozpur Headworks. So this slide overall covers the Indus, its tributaries and major hydraulic structures. And I have tried to cover almost all the major hydraulic structures on Indus and its tributaries. Okay, moving forward. Here we have more focus on the Punjab part of Pakistan. Here, more clear view of Punjab province has been shown, and especially the purpose of this slide is to let you guys know about the different zones of Punjab Irrigation Department. So here, this portion in white color around which I'm moving the pointer. This is the Lahore zone. You can see the structures in the Lahore zone, and after that we have this portion. We have, this is Sargodha zone, and then this portion is Faisalabad zone, and then we have this portion known as Multan zone, and then moving more downwards, here we have Bahawalpur zone, and then this portion is DG Khan zone, that is Dera Ghazi Khan zone. And this much portion is the Potohar region. Here our Punjab province has more than 60 small dams constructed on the tributaries of River Swan, which is actually the tributary of River Indus. Okay, this slide has clearly shown you the different irrigation zones of Punjab. That is how Punjab province has been divided into different field zones. So moving forward, here is the schematic or line diagram of Punjab province, its irrigation network. It is the world's largest contiguous irrigation system. So you guys can have a good look at it because it does not only show the rivers, it shows hydraulic structures on them and of taking canals from them. So this is a complex network. So it's quite good schematic diagram to have idea about all the major link canals and main canals of Punjab Irrigation Department. Okay, moving forward, this is the hierarchy of Punjab Irrigation Department's field formations. This is the typical hierarchy. Starting here from the top, yeah, we have a chief engineer, and under chief engineer, normally we have two, or of course more than two superintending engineers called as SC, and then under each SC we have two or three, or depending upon the formation of a typical zone. This is under SC we have executive engineer called as XEN, uh, and under an XEN we have two to three or four subdivisional officers known as SDO, and under an SDO we have two to three sub engineers. So this is how a field formation works in irrigation department. And as I have explained in previous slide, we have almost 6 chief engineers which have a jurisdiction covering all over the Punjab. Okay, this slide covers our first part. So after this, we will be moving towards basic concepts, terminologies regarding flood infrastructure. In this, guys, I have tried to cover most of the basics about the flood infrastructure in pictorial format. So here, first of all, we will have the idea of bund, levees, or embankments. As far as definition is concerned, a bund or levee is defined as an earthen embankment built in order to safeguard the important areas from inundation due to flood waters. Guys, there are two types of embankments. One is the earthen embankment and other is the earthen embankment, but it is protected from water side. So if we talk about earthen embankment, it has two sides. One is the river side and other is the countryside. So this is the area which is actually protected by the this flood bund against the inundation from this water. So this portion is also actually the flood plain. But we have, as we know, here we have our urbanization. So we want to protect that, and that's why we have built this bund or levee. So as far as its geometry is concerned, its countryside side slope is 1 vertical to 3 horizontal, and its top is typically 25 feet to 30 feet wide, and countryside have 1 vertical to horizontal side slope, and this is HFL, highest flood level, and the distance between top of the flood bund to the highest flood level is called as freeboard. So this dash line is showing the hydraulic grade line. We also call it as phatic line. So it is normally assumed as 1 vertical to 6 horizontal, 6 1 slope. So as far as the safety of the flood bund is concerned, it is ensured that the countryside toe of the embankment should not be covered with the, should not be overtopped by the phatic line. So this phatic line for safety, it should be 2 feet, minimum 2 feet below the countryside toe of the slope of the embankment. So this is the earthen embankment, and most of the embankments in our in Punjab we have of this type, that is earthen. And next we have the similar structure, that is embankment, but its one side is protected, and its countryside is very similar as I have explained already, and its river side is protected against the erosive action of the river. So for that we have we pitch the river side of the embankment with the stone, and then as foundation we provide a stone apron so that it can give support to this pitching. So it contains the top top layer is stone, heavy stone. More than it ranges from one stone weighs almost more than 30 kilograms, and below the heavy stones we have graded spall layer, and below this we have graded filter layer. And the similar we have concept of hydraulic grade line, as I've explained already, and its countryside is having one vertical to two horizontal slope. Moving forward, as I've explained, pictorial view of the embankment. So this picture shows the right marginal band of Melsi siphon along Satluj River. This side is the countryside, of course, and this side is the riverine side. And as I've explained in previous slide, this side is one vertical to three horizontal side slope, and this countryside is one vertical to two horizontal side slope. Next, this is the Chiniot flood bun along left side of Chenab River. This is the RD mark. Means this is RD0 of Chiniot flood bun, means this is the starting point of flood bun, and this is the data board of Chenab flood bun, which is containing the basic data of the bun. Next, we have another picture of flood bun, which is Minchin flood bun along left side of Indus River. Here, the condition of this bun, its top is a little bit eroded due to rainfall and consequent continuous stress passing of the people. But anyways, it's in satisfactory condition. Here we have, of course, data board RD mark. This is the RD60 of the Minchin flood bun, means it is from RD0 means starting point. This point is 60,000 feet away. So here the Minchin flood bun completes its 60,000 feet length. And this is the gauge of the Minchin flood bun. It is the mile gauge, means it is at 60 RD gauge. Of course, this is the river side and the other side is countryside. Moving forward, another photo of flood bun. This is the left marginal bun known as LMB of Sidnai Barrage along Ravi River. So again, RD mark, its data board, and riverside and countryside and all. Next, we have flood bun along Shahpur distributary along left side of Jhelum River. So you can see side slope of this flood bun is in a good condition. The top of the flood bun is used as road, so it is protected by a flexible apron. Next, we have another basic terminology regarding flood infrastructure, which is called as spurs, studs, or groins. Spurs, studs, or groins. As far as definition is concerned, a spur, stud, or groin is an embankment constructed with earth and stones, transfers to the river flow and extend from the bank into the river. These are widely used for the purpose of river training. Guys, these are also like embankments, but they protrude out from the embankments into the river. So I will explain next in the in figures, but first of all, let's have idea about their geometry. So it has three different types: earthen stud, Earthen stud with stone protection on both sides, and solid stone stud, which is formed of fully formed of stone. There is no earth in it. So as far as earthen stud is concerned, its typical geometry features are given, and you can see it has no countryside. Its both sides are river sides, as it is used to train the rivers. So this is the earthen part of the stud, means its both sides are 1 vertical to 3 horizontal, and HFL highest flood level on both sides of it. And here is its freeboard. It's normally 5 feet. And now the next we have earthen stud with stone protection. It is protected both sides with stone, and as I've explained already, we have stone apron, which is designed against the scour depth of the water. So uh, uh, this one is the earthen stud. Due to the stone, its slope from 1 vertical to 3 in earthen case has been reduced to 1 vertical to 2 horizontal in stone apron protection case. And similarly, we have solid stone studs. These are actually constructed to give the hard push to the river water, so that it can take a strong force to move away from the embankment, because fully stone body can give a more heavy thrust to the water to the other side. So next we have various shapes of the spar studs or groins. As we know, these are river training structures, means they push the water. So we have a bar type spar. You can see its nose here, flow direction is from left to right side. So flow comes and it interacts with the nose of the spar, and after contacting this, it takes a push towards the other side. So based on the meandering pattern, or based on the safety of area we require, we design these shapes. So we have this bar type spar, we have mole head spar, we have hockey spar. Like you see, it gives more heavy thrust to the water as compared to this, because it is shaped like hockey. Similarly, we have inverted hockey spar, and similarly we have T-head spar. We have sloping spur. Actually its level gets lower from bank to the nose side of the river. Its top level gets lower. And similarly we have J head spur, also called as T hockey sloping spur. So these are the various types of spurs. Next, we will have photos of some types of the spurs. This photo is J head spur at Jampur Flood along right side of the Indus River. You can see its side is protected by the stone pitching, and we have a stone apron down to the stone pitching, and of course this portion is covered by the water. Next we have spur at Western Distributary Flood along left side of Jhelum River. You can see this is another spur. Its condition is not in good condition. You can see a lot of vegetation growth has occurred on it. Here we have stone studs at right bank of Marala Ravi Link Canal. This is MR Link Canal, which offtakes from left side of Marala Barrage along with UCC, Upper Chenab Canal. So here MR Link Canal, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 studs constructed on its right bank. So these are constructed to give push to the water, to train water to not to move towards the outer side. right? Because if these are not there here, and then water, then canal's prism gets disturbed. So in order to safeguard the prism of the channel of the big canal, these studs have been constructed, means its water has been trained at these locations. You guys might be knowing that this is MR Link Canal. Its capacity is 22,000 cusics. So it's quite a big quantity of water which passes from this section. Next, we have a very good photo taken in IRI Nandipur. It shows, gives a very good concept of flood band. This is the Dadal flood band. These white parts are actually the RD marks on the flood band, and on different locations of flood band or different RDs, we have spurs, studs or groins installed. You can see these are of different shapes. So you can see different structures have been constructed. So this photo almost summarizes the two basic parts which have been covered up till now. First is this embankment levee or bund, and second we have covered the bunds. Second we have covered the levees. Uh, Secondly, we have covered. Sorry, guys. Secondly, we have covered the spurs, studs, or groins. Okay, moving forward, this is the Chinyote flood bund map. It is the index plan. The idea to show this map is to just clear the concept of flood bund. This is the Chinyote flood bund. The initial photo which I showed you was taken at this point, which was at RD0 of Chinyote flood band. And you see, if we move along this flood band, it has different spurs on it. So you guys can have a detailed look at this. Similarly, we have another map of Sidnai Barrage and its right marginal band and left marginal band and the associated spar studs or groin on it. So this is also a very good map to show the two basic flood infrastructures, which are flood band and spar studs or groins. Here we have a flood infrastructure in Punjab in the form of numbers. On different rivers, we have in total length of river in kilometers, length of bunds in kilometers, and spar or studs in numbers. So in total, we have in Punjab 2,850 kilometer length of rivers, 3,332 kilometer length of bunds constructed on either side of the rivers, and we have 640 number of spar studs on it. And very few of the pictures about these bunds and rivers and spurs I have shown already. So next concept we are going to discuss is the wetting channel. It is the additional channel which is constructed on the river side of the embankment. According to definition, it is defined as the channel provided on the river side of an embankment in order to wet the bund before the flood season to find out weak points in the embankments. Guys, due to the aging effect, these earthen embankments they cover they get covered with the vegetation growth, and due to the vegetation there are many rodents which make homes in these vegetation. So they live in the form of holes. So those holes they weaken these bunds. So in order to identify those weak spots in the embankments, it's always better to identify them before the flood water comes. So for that we construct the wetting channel, which covers which is filled before the flood season, so that when it is got filled, it it makes the countryside of the flood bank wet, and with the help of that we can identify different rodent holes or weak spots in the embankment. So this diagram is without wetting channel, and this section of the embankment is with wetting channel. So I think wetting channel concept has been quite clearly explained here. It actually shifts the pharetic line of the embankment, as you guys can see here. Without wetting channel, we have its pharetic line, it goes directly into it, but with the wetting channel it not only gives the idea about the weak spots, but it gives additional safety to the embankment. So in pictures format, here we have filled wetting channel along Jang flood bank. So countryside, riverside of the flood bank, and of, this side is countryside, and on riverside we have an embank. We have a wetting channel on it, and this wetting channel is being filled. Another view of wetting channel on Chinyote flood bank. This is the data board showing RD number 16,280, and this is the tube well number 1 behind these trees, which is used to fill this wetting channel. Moving forward, there is another concept about gauges, RD marks, and data boards. So here we have gauge at Jang flood bank along Chenab River. This is myself. This is very important gauge installed at Jang flood bank. So here we can see its different gauges have also been mentioned, like this is the HFL 2014, which was 528.3, I guess. So these are the gauges. Another view of the gauges on the countryside of this Jang flood bank, and another photo showing the RD mark and data board on the Chinyote flood bank. Next, guys, we will be covering the concept of breaching section. Breaching section, guys, it's very important section on the flood embankment at a defined location in order to safeguard the safety of the structure. According to definition, it is defined as a section of a flood embankment or other flood protection work which is designated for effecting a controlled breach to release a part of flood under specific conditions. Guys, just assume that we have a very important structure here. This is the river course, and this is the embankment, and of course this portion is the floodplain. uh, uh, During the floods, we have a defined capacity of this structure. So in case during flood water comes more than the capacity of this structure, so if we don't have this breaching section, we can put our structure in danger. So these breaching sections are defined are installed to ensure the safety of the structures. So this is the breaching section profile. You can see normally its top is 20 feet. Countryside countryside is 2 to 1, and the river side is 3 to 1 ratio. And here we have plan. It shows more clearly the profile and firing arrangement of the breaching section. Here you can see these are the different liners: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 liners on the embankment. This is the section, and this is the top view of different liners. So these are filled with the explosives with the help of army, and then at the time of operation of breaching section, these are blasted to weaken the embankment so that extra water can breach through this. So next in the next slides we will have more detail about its operation. Here in picture format we have breaching section at RD3 of Chinur flood bund along Chenab River. So you guys can see these are the different liners as explained in the previous diagram, and of course this whole reach of the breaching section is covered with barbed wire, is fenced properly in order to ensure any animal or human trespassing. Here, more closed view of one of the liners at RD3 of Chinur flood bund. So this is the data board of breaching section. Another breaching section at right marginal band of Trimu Beraj, which is RD16 to 18. And we will inshallah cover the case study of its breaching also. We will go into the more detail of it. So here this picture is taken by standing at the downstream side of the breaching section. You can see RD marked as RD18. So RD16 would be somewhere over there upstream. So next another picture of breaching section at right marginal band of Trimu Beraj RD16 to 18. Now another concept, we have a reserve stock of stone. Guys, this is very important stock of you can say flood fighting material, which is used in the time of heavy floods in order to safeguard the vulnerable points. It is defined as the reserved stonework to protect the side slopes and vulnerable parts of embankments and spurs against erosion. So guys, these are placed on the different locations, suitable locations in the form of stacks, and their record is maintained in different registers. So this is one of the uh, uh, record of measurement of stone stacking on spur at RD 28 plus 750 on flood bund flood bund 1 section. So most of the times, as per SOPs of the standard operating procedures of the flood preparedness, these stacks, their quantity is measured. Here in the picture you can see it's being measured. Next, another photograph of reserve stock of stone placed at J Head Spur at Basti Linda, and this data board is showing different design parameters of this J Head Spur. Another view of the reserve stock of stone being measured at a spar. Another photograph, another diagram showing the reserve stock of stone on T-shape spar, and you can see different stacks, their positions and numbering have been marked on it. So based on this, we can have the idea that how much stone we are available with at which location. And especially these parts are known as prongs of the spur. Prongs. This portion is known as nose. This one is known as its main body of the spur. And of course, this is its starting point from the marginal bund. Another concept of encroachment on flood bunds. Dear students, most of the flood bunds and spurs, they are acquired lands, they are government land, but most of the people, they illegally occupy these areas. So these people are of course most susceptible to the flooding. So they illegally occupy these areas of embankments and spurs. So here this picture is showing encroached spur along Dadal flood path, and similarly another photo showing encroachment along left marginal bank of Sidnai Barrage. You can see the people have constructed their homes, and this top of the embankment has been fully disturbed due to the passing of the animals through this portion. Guys, next we have flood fighting material, flood fighting plan, and standard operating procedures. Guys, up till here, actually, we have covered the basics of flood infrastructure of Punjab, their quantum, and especially the basic concepts. So now from here, actual lecture will start, which is about flood hazard public disaster management. Initial two parts were designed to just give you guys the idea about the various terminologies which will be used. So flood fighting material, flood fighting plan, and standard operating procedures. Flood fighting material, flood fighting plan, and standard operating procedures (SOPs). Here we have a list of different flood fighting material. You guys can read them. These are normally used flood fighting material. In the next slides, we will cover most of these material in the form of photographs. So here in this photo we have e-gunny bags. In this photo we have tent, gunny bags, plastic bags, manila rope, and drums for the petrol, diesel. Here we have sandbag filling machine. This MIW stands for Moghalpura Irrigation Workshop, Lahore. This photographs shows the different buckets, GI buckets, known as galvanized iron buckets. Here we have steel mantles, known as laltan in Urdu. Here we have tooth basket and various other items, flood fighting material items. Next, we have a photograph showing flood watching hut. Here in these buildings, we place those flood fighting material. Another slide showing various photographs of different flood fighting material. Here in the top, we have this flood fighting material known as Munj Tarangad. This is, you can say, an arrangement of rope in which we place 2 to 3 big size stones to make a big unit, so that that can be put into the river or at the nose of the spurs to stop the water to cause erosion. Here we have flood fighting material in the form of charpais, or we have generator. Here we have different baskets, tables, chairs, etc. And here we have bamboos, 12 feet to 14 feet bamboos. Next we have, guys, slide showing focus of flood preparedness, or you can say that main purpose of flood preparedness or flood hazard or disaster management. Our main points are: we have to ensure the protection of barrages, protection of main cities or towns, protection of irrigation infrastructure, that is barrages, canals, regulation structures, etc. And we have to ensure protection of communication network like railways and highways. Next, we have schedule of flood preparedness activities in the form of activity detail and target date. So, starting from the point number one, we have preparation of flood fighting plans as per SOP or format. We will discuss this SOP or format in the next slide. So, in the preparation of flood fighting plan, we do the following activity: submission of draft divisional plans by zonal chiefs to chief engineer, drainage and flood zone after scrutiny by SCs or chief engineers. Its target date every year is 1st March, means before 1st March or up to 1st March, every field formation has to prepare its flood fighting plan as per SOP, and they have to submit their divisional plans through proper channel by proper scrutiny through the SCs and chief engineers. Similarly, up to 31st March, they have to ensure the review by chief engineer, drainage and flood zone. Means these flood fighting plans up to 1st March, they are submitted to chief engineer DNF through proper channel, and then up to 31st March, chief engineer DNF has to ensure the review of all the flood fighting plans, and then after that, final submission of divisional plans is ensured up to 15th April. Then in the next schedule of preparedness activities, we have to carry out inspection of flood works. These are done by executive engineers, and then inspection is done by checking or inspection teams, which is formed consists of SCs and chief engineers, and here we have deadlines, and then inspection by departmental and army teams. Especially army teams, they inspect the sites of breaching sections, especially because in the time of need they have to be activated, and they have to ensure the availability of different blasting material at the breaching site. At the third point of schedule of flood preparedness activities, we have indication of encroachments on bunds and spurs to the civil administrations. So here civil administration means deputy commissioner of the district and concerned assistant commissioner of tehsils. Next, we have a flood activity known as painting gauges, RD marks, data boards, and repairs to flood bunds, etc. Its target date is 31st March. Then we have replenishment of reserve stock of stone and flood fighting materials. Now you guys must be knowing, because we have discussed in the second part in detail about the reserve stock of stone and flood fighting materials. So they have to be replenished in case we have some deficiency or some have been used already. So they have to be replenished before 28th of February. For that, we have to identify the needs, means how much quantity is to be replenished, and then we have to arrange funding or procurement arrangements, and then of course after proper funding arrangement we have to ensure its procurement and then stacking at the proper sites, and then we have to perform prescribed field checks. Field checks include their proper placement at the vulnerable sites and their proper quantity at different locations of spars, like at the nose of the spar or at different prongs of the spars. So its deadline is 30th June. Guys, remember one very important thing. In Punjab, in Pakistan, our flood season starts from 15th June and it ends in 15th October. So 15th June to 15th October is the flood season. So all these schedule of flood preparedness activities are actually encompassing this flood season. In the next schedule of flood preparedness activity, we have installation of wireless sets. Actually, these wireless sets are already installed by the police department, Punjab Police, and their installation is ensured up to 15th June. Especially these are already installed at various security checkpoints managed by the Punjab police. And at the time of needs, these wireless sets are shifted to the vulnerable points of spars or bunks. And then another activity is the opening of zonal flood cells. For that, they have to prepare duty roster of different establishment, different officers and officials working on them, because they work 24 hours. They work on 8 hours shift, and 3 shifts of 8 hours are the duty roster items. Uh, and then they have to prepare the operative up to 15 June. Operative means sometimes they have to work out of the duty roster timings, like at the time of peak flood or flood limit of exceptional high flood. More staff is placed at different locations. So operative has also to be prepared, like the officials have to be informed before that in case of exceptionally or very high flood, they have to be ready to go to the site to operate the flood cell. Next, guys, in the previous slide here, schedule of flood preparedness activities have been is finished, and then we will discuss now the table of contents of the flood fighting plan as per SOP or format. Actually, these are the table of contents. They have two parts. Part A consisting of chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. Part A consists of 11 chapters, and then part B consists of chapter 12, 13. So part B consists of two chapters. So I will provide you some example flood fighting plans of few divisions. So each division headed by executive engineer is bound to prepare its flood fighting plan as per the very first schedule of flood preparedness activity. So they have to prepare up to 1st March and submit to the chief engineer drainage and flood. So they have to prepare in this format, like chapter 1 salient features of the concerned division, chapter 2 flood protection and river training works, means the list of the flood bonds and associated bonds on it, associated spars or studs on it, every bump. And then location map, as I have shown in the previous slide, some location maps of Chineot flood bund and another location map of Sidnai Barrage. Chapter 3 consists of brief history of past flood events, because it is also very important to know the frequency of flood at a particular point which has already occurred. Then chapter 4 consists of design data, historic peak flood data, and previous 5-year flood data of headworks or barrage and or other control points. So in this, they have to define the flood limits, time lags of floods, highest floods, peak discharges, time lag. Guys, you guys might not be knowing about it. Let me explain a little. Guys, time lag means, for example, if we take the example of River Chenab, at Maralla, we have, for example, 6 lakh cusic of flood peak. So time lag means on Maralla downstream on the Chenab River, we have Khanki Barrage. So time lag between Maralla Barrage and Khanki Barrage to travel the peak of 6 lakh cusic, it might ranges from 2 to 3 hours. So depending upon the shape and length of the river, different time lags are there between various control points on the structures. So these time lags depend, of course, on the shape of the river, length of the river, and also on the quantum of water. Means, for example, 6 lakh cubic flood may have time lag different than the 10 lakh cubic, right? Then we have chapter 5, flood fighting strategy. Then chapter 6, flood damages restoration works. Chapter 7, flood fighting watching arrangements. Various watching arrangements, mostly they consist of flood fighting materials and other things. Most of these things are covered in government instructions, which I will be covering in the next slides. So I will provide you some divisional flood fighting plans, so you guys can read details about these. Here, POL, arrangement for vehicle. POL stands for petroleum, oil, and lubricants, and likewise all other items you guys can read yourself. And then chapter 8 is about detail encroachments. Chapter 9, duty roster, flood fighting program. Chapter 10, emergency telephone numbers. And then chapter 11 is SOPs for breaching sections, like history of the breaching section, location, design, quantity, and variety of the explosive required for detonation, and then arrangement of explosives and security of explosive stores, and likewise other things. So it's self-explanatory items. You guys can read from the provided flood fighting plans. Further detail about breaching we will cover next in the case study. Now moving towards the part B of the flood fighting plan. Part B consists of 2 chapters. Chapter 12 about vulnerable sites on flood banks or structures, and chapter 13 is the emergency contingency plan for vulnerable site or sites listed above. Means these chapter 12. So part B is really very important part because this defines the most vulnerable points, and then various contingency plans are defined here. So these are very important parts regarding the flood hazard or disaster management. So although we have taken a lot of time up till now in this lecture, so you guys can read from the provided flood fighting plan, and in case of any questions, uh, uh, we can have a further discussion through emails or messages. So guys, next part of the lecture is about breaching of embankment or bund, a case study of Trimu right marginal bund breach in 2014. So guys, 2014 flood was a very heavy flood in Chenab River. So for that, the RMB of Trimu barrage was operated. So before going to the case study, let's have a little theoretical background of the breaching sections in Punjab. The purpose of the breaching section is in case of exceptionally high floods, part of the discharges are escaped by breaching the bund on the predetermined sites for safety of the main hydraulic structures, bridges or barrages, and main cities. Breaching section is operated by the army authorities after the unanimous decision of the breach operation committee. Breach operation committee consists of 4 members, headed by the executive engineer. We will discuss in the coming slides. Statistics of breaching sections in the Punjab are as under. There are total 19 numbers of breaching sections in Punjab. 13 out of the 19 are related to Punjab Irrigation Department. 4 out of 19 are related to Railway Department, and 2 are related to Punjab Highway Department or NHA, National Highway Authority. So moving next, we have Breach Operation Committee. Breach Operation Committee is notified by the government, and it consists of 4 members. Main member is convener is the executive engineer of the concerned division. Second is the Deputy Commissioner officer of a district or his representative is as member in the committee, and then representative of respective army corps not below lieutenant colonel, which is in the a member of the committee, and then representative officer of highway or railway department not below the rank of PS 18. He is also the member of the committee. So these four officers, they form the breach operation committee. So this committee monitors flood situation at each breaching site and operates the breaching section as per prescribed criteria as contained in the flood fighting plan. So this prescribed criteria is of course in the part B of the flood fighting plan, as we have already discussed a little. Here, this picture is showing a breach operation at Head Muhammadwala River Chenab during flood 2014. This is just to give you the idea about the situation when flood in the flood situation that when breach is operated. This slide here we have some points about pre-breaching operations. So before carrying out the breach, we have to ensure placement of explosive at breach site. We have to ensure machinery arrangements as an alternate in case explosives do not work, and warning communication to the likely affected area through district government, provincial disaster management authority or police department. And then we have to ensure evacuation of the areas by district government and establishing relief camps. Post breaching operations are evaluation of damages in areas affected by breaching operation. Of course, irrigation department, highway or railway department, and PDMA, because it depends upon the whose breaching section is being operated. As I've explained, out of total 19 number of breaching sections in Punjab, they are divided into the 2 or 3 departments. We have to in the post bridging operations, another step is arrangement of machinery material for immediate restoration of communication, because when we operate the bridging section, then in the way of the water, whatever the communication network we have, it gets disturbed. So arrangement is made to immediately restore those roads or railway lines. And then one of the post-breaching operation is establishment of relief camps by PDMA and district administration. And then we have to ensure preventive and curative health care by the health department. So moving to the case study, breach at RMB Trimu. Name of the breaching section was of course Trimu. Name of river was Chenab. Responsibility irrigation, as the flood bang RMB Trimu is with irrigation department. So name of the barrage, Trimu barrage. Breaching section was RD 16 to 18 of RMB. Discharge for breaching was 6,50,000 cusics. Means this discharge is the discharge in the river. Means as per design, as per the operation conditions of the breach, design for discharge for breaching is 6,50,000 cusics. Means in the if the flood of magnitude of 6,50,000 cusic comes, then we have to operate the breaching. But not only the discharge is the criteria, water level is also the criteria to operate the breaching section. So in this case study, at the breaching time, discharge was not 6,50,000 cusics, it was 5,61,980 cusics. But the level was already obtained, the level required to operate breaching section, which was supposed to be obtained at 6,50,000 cusics, but it was obtained at 5,61,000 cusics. And at the time of breaching, the discharge passed through the breaching section was 77,000 cusics, and gauge for breaching was 500. Design gauge for breaching was 500, but gauge at breaching time was 500.8 feet above sea level. So you, as I have already explained, and as per design, the discharge in the barrage should be 6,50,000 cusics, and gauge was assumed as 500 to operate. But in real, what happened at the discharge of 5,61,980 cusics, the level was already the design breaching level was already encroached. So 500.8 gauge was there at the time of breaching. So breach operation committee consisting of four members, they decided to operate the breaching section. Gauge location was RD15 as the uh, breaching section is 2000 feet long from 16 RD16 to 18, and in the mid portion, almost in the upper mid portion, RD15 of LMB gauge location was RD15. Gauge actually, as I've already explained, gauge installed was on the right side from where these levels were measured. So date was 10th of September 2014, and time of operation of breach was 10:30 a.m. This picture shows RMB of Trimu after breach, RD16 to 18 of RMB Trimu. So this is the river side and this is the countryside. So 77,000 cusics was passed through this breach. Unfortunately, I was not available with the photos during the breach, but this is the photo after breach. Here is the map showing the route of the breach. So this is RD16 to 18 of RMB. This is Trimu Barrage, and this is Jhelum River. This is Chenab River. So from here, the LMB is RD15. There was a gauge. At that gauge, when we were when we obtained the critical gauge to operate the breaching section, which was 500. When it was obtained, it was encroached from 500 to 500.8. Then this breaching section was operated, and then this was the route followed by the water, 77,000 cusics. So you can see there are, we have irrigation network, irrigation canal which were disturbed, and then we had main Rangpur canal, and then we have different road networks which were disturbed due to this breach. But ultimate purpose was the ensuring safety of this Trimu barrage. This breach was carried out. Here at breach at RMB Trimo, few photos about closing of cut at breaching section. So different machinery is used to close the cut of the breach. Next, we have a table showing impact of breaches in Punjab. So different breaching sites of Punjab Irrigation Department, and likely villages to be affected by each breaching section, and consequent population to be affected. So this data shows, for example, at in case Shadra breaching section is operated, here we have Shadra railway bridge in Lahore. So if that is operated, 21 villages will be affected, and corresponding 5,50,000 number of people will be getting affected, irrespective of the infrastructure. So flood, next last part of the structure is flood limits, flood warning system, and government instructions regarding flood hazard disaster management. Flood limits you guys have already covered, so we will try to skip these flood limits like low flood, medium flood, high flood, very high flood, exceptionally high flood. Dr. Rizwan has already covered this. So skipping it, we will move towards the flood warning system. So guys, flood warning system we have in two parts. One is the beyond border flood warning system, and second is the within border B part flood warning system. So beyond border, we have 2 points to discuss. During floods, India supplies information through Radio Jammu at 10 hours, 15:30 hours, and 23:40 hours Pakistani Standard Time for the following river stages. Chenab and Akhnur, because this site is in India, and this gauge at this site is really very important regarding flooding in Pakistan area. So whenever at this location discharge equals or exceeds 75,000 cusics, India supplies information to Pakistan on these times. And likewise on Ravi below Madhopur headworks, they have to supply us the data whenever the discharge exceeds or equals 30,000 cusics. Similarly, in B part, hourly and 6-hourly flood data of sites for the following rivers is conveyed on telephone to Pakistan Commissioner for Indus Waters, PCIW, depending on the flood situations. Like Jammu and Munawar Tawi, 20,000 cusics and above, they have, if discharge gets equal to 20,000 or above, they supply hourly and 6-hourly flood data to PCIW. And then on Satluj at Rupert, below Harike and below Ferozpur headworks, they also have to supply data in whatever form when in whatever amount of water they are discharging downstream, because ultimately they will be coming into the Pakistan side, so they have to provide this information hourly and 6-hourly. And then on Ravi below Madhupur, as here we have already seen. And next we have, they have to give us the levels of Bhakra Dam on Satluj and Pong Dam on Beas also on hourly and 6-hourly flood data basis. Next, for flood warning system within country, we have normal forecasts issued by meteorological department every 24 hours. On occurrence of significant rainfall or flood, immediate warnings are issued through website, through social media, and through whatever sources possible. And then irrigation department supplies 6-hourly gauge and discharge data of all barrages, headworks and nalas to flood warning center 46 Jail Road, Lahore. And then flood warnings are started at medium flood level. At high flood level, hourly data are supplied and warnings issued. These levels are actually different flood limits. Flood emergency cell is established in irrigation department, in irrigation secretariat, which monitors flood situation round the clock and collects damage reports if any. Next, guys, establishment of flood warning center, as already discussed, it is established with the contact number, this contact number, two landlines at 46 Jail Road, Lahore, with effect from 15 June every year, means start of the flood season, and it ends at 15th of October at the end of flood season. So this flood warning center functions round the clock in 3 shifts of 8 hours each. Each shift is headed by grade 18 officer like XCN or deputy director. Railways, WAPDA, Communication and Works, CNW, and Meteorological Department, they participate in functioning of the center. Information Department prepares flood bulletins for media. Then Police Telecommunication Department Punjab establishes wireless network for receiving 6-hourly gauge and discharge data from headworks, barrages and other control points. Police wireless and also disseminates flood warnings to outstations as and when required. Guys, these are very important points. That's why I'm almost reading word by word so that you guys can understand them well. Next part, guys, is about the government instructions regarding flood hazard or disaster management. Guys, these are very important points regarding flood hazard and disaster management. So first point is very important, like they say the calendar of flood preparedness activities should be strictly adhered to. The calendar, which has already been discussed in detail in main part of the lecture. And then government instruction is all the flood preparedness activities should be checked, verified at site by the senior officer. officers. In order to ensure timely compliance, then chief engineers have to submit certificates regarding health of the flood infrastructure by 31st March every year. Then flood fighting plans should be properly reviewed and updated according to revised SOPs. Then RD marks, gauges, data boards should be fixed on the flood infrastructure. If they are already fixed, they have to be properly maintained, like painted and fixed properly if damaged. And then availability of prescribed quantity of reserve stock of stone and flood fighting materials should be ensured at identified locations. And availability of watching establishment in line with the provisions of flood fighting plans. Establishment means number of people working, so their number have to be ensured as per flood fighting plans. Then adequate machinery should also be deployed at vulnerable points. All the flood damages should be restored on fast track basis. Similarly, maintenance and repair or restoration works on embankments, spurs, and other infrastructures should be undertaken on priority basis. And the breaching sections should be properly inspected and prepared for activation in case of emergency. Next instructions are all the wetting channels and second defense pumps should be inspected and requisite repairs should be carried out to make them functional and safe during floods. And then all the mechanical components and gates and gearings of the hydraulic structure should be inspected to ensure that these are functional, means they checked their working, or in case they need oiling and greasing, that is done. Then the security and lighting arrangements and structures should be checked for their adequacy and made functional, because flood can high flood or exceptionally high flood can occur at the night time also. So lighting arrangements are very important. And then flood mock exercises should be arranged at all levels in order to assess the state of the preparedness or readiness. Further instructions are about it has to be clearly understood the primary responsibility rests with the concerned field formations, and they have to ensure about removing all the cracks, rodent holes, unauthorized pipes, ramps, and weak spots at the flood bunds. And as far as the requisite repairs should be urgently carried out, so it's the sole responsibility of the field formations. Then close liaison and coordination should be maintained with the district or local administration, public reps, and army units. They should be kept informed of the flood preparedness activities, identified vulnerable reaches, removal of encroachments, and support or help needed from them in normal and emergent situations. So guys, these government instructions are very important instructions, and actually these form the basics or basic points regarding flood hazard or disaster management in practical. So guys, from here on with me, you guys can contact through a proper channel, through your department, through Dr. Rizwan, about different internship opportunities. Although these days, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, these activities are very less, because currently we have only skeleton staff working in offices and on sites. So uh, anyways, we can have some internship opportunities from my side at various working sites, and then we can have a consultation about hydraulic modeling also on various hydraulic modeling tools, as I've worked on them. And then you guys can contact me regarding hydraulic data collection, and then I can provide you counseling for higher studies, especially in the field of hydraulics and irrigation engineering. And then I can assist you guys in the relevant final year projects of you guys. So thank you very much. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to me. Although I couldn't deliver a lecture in fluency, but I have tried to cover maximum practical aspects of the flood hazard and disaster management practices being followed by the Punjab Irrigation Department. So in case of any questions, you guys can contact me through email or through the comments. Thank you very much.